Well, good morning, guys.
Hey.
Good morning.
We're in a new spot.
We are in a new digs.
Yes.
We're in Ken's office at Metacake with a new setup here.
Wow.
No more silver table. Now we have a wood maple-esque table going on.
Upgrading.
You can hear it.
Nice.
How are you guys doing?
It's been a few weeks, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, we went on a little vacation.
I was on vacation.
Yeah, it was too. Where were you? You're in New York.
Oh, yes, I was in upstate New York.
Yeah, upstate New
Adirondacks.
York.
We snuck in, snuck out.
Yeah, I went to Detroit,
How was Detroit?
the D town. It was good. It
Yeah?
was good. Yeah, the weather was beautiful. Summer in Michigan's are amazing.
Yeah.
The winters you gotta be ready for that.
I'm ready for fall for sure.
Yeah, it's been hot here.
Yeah, it's nice and warm.
Well, today, guys, let's talk about agency culture. This is one that's been coming for a while. I know we talk about a lot of things on the podcast, and we talk about our experiences, and I think combined we have several decades of various environments. And, it's been glorified quite a bit. And from Mad Men to Ad Age to what people think of when they think of marketing and advertising agencies. But let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly today.
Ooh.
And we've got a special guest. Ken, I'm going to let you introduce our
We
guest.
do. Oh, man. Our guest is Taylor Watt. Taylor Watt, the amazing Taylor Watt. She has worked with us for about 3 years now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Taylor, her background is actually in teaching at first, and then she went into marketing, and she got a job at a couple agencies, and ended up with us. And we'll get into maybe some of her experiences. But Taylor's a great person. She's super smart. She runs all of our marketing, and for both strategically for our clients and also for us internally. And we do a lot of content at Metacake. We've talked about our YouTube channel. We've talked about other things. And Taylor's one of our voices to our community. And so, amazing person, super smart. Good to have her here. Taylor Watt.
Thanks for having me.
Hey.
I was gonna do the clapping.
You gotta turn the volume up on.
I know. I've got it. Oh no, wrong one. Sorry.
We'll find it. Oh,
There we go, Taylor. All right,
Goodness.
Taylor.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We can edit that in.
Our audience is social distancing, just so you know.
So Taylor, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Good. So you work for this guy here on my left,
I do.
and
Yes.
with this guy, should I say?
Yes.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about your background. Like, who is Taylor Watt?
Well, grew up in Nashville. I went to school at a little Christian college called Lee University. So I was going to be a teacher. I really wanted to be a math teacher like my whole life. And then as soon as I started student teaching, I freaked out and was like, I can't be around kids all day. So,
That kind of changes things.
yes. I was like, oh, I actually have to be around the munchkins, and I'm good. So, my roommate was actually in advertising, and I was always envious that her work seemed exciting and, just more passion filled. And, so I just made a last minute switch and switched my senior year and stayed around at Lee a little longer and got my advertising degree. And, I got a job at an ad agency here in Nashville right out of school. So I literally graduated, moved home, and started work within 36 hours maybe. And so I was a media planner there. So the media team was media planners and media buyers. And so I was on the planning side, and I didn't even really know what that meant. I just told them I was willing to learn. And it was quite an experience. I was there for a year, and was not the best year of my life by any stretch. Navigating who you are as a post-grad is already hard, and then being thrown into the wolves of agency culture, traditional agency culture, was really intense. So I ended up leaving there, and then eventually found my way over to Metacake, and that was a huge blessing because it's obviously completely different here, and I'm so grateful that I switched my major years ago, and so grateful that I get to do the work that I do. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't pay her to say that.
no.
So you were at a larger traditional ad agency,
Right.
we won't name which one it is, but talk to us about that. Like what was the expectation going in?
So when you're in college doing the advertising track, everybody thinks that you're just going to end up at a big ad agency, like that's the goal. And so the expectation is it's going to be a trendy office, it's going to be fast paced, you're going to be working with creatives and serving clients and making them tons of money, and you're just going to be a boss. And so that's when I landed this job, I was like, yes, I'm going to be ad agency girl. And so I thought that was the right move. And I didn't honestly know where else to go. I didn't know what else to do with this degree. So the expectation going in was just that it was going to be awesome. And then I got there and quickly realized there's a lot broken in the traditional agency setting. Mm-hmm.
What was the first sign that, hey, I don't think I'm going to like this?
Well, I didn't really know what to expect because this is the first, quote, big girl job that I had. But you'd think that at an agency that had been running for decades that there would be some sort of formal training. There's no formal training. And if there wasn't formal training, you'd think that you could learn from a senior or your manager and, be closely mentored by them. You get a desk and a computer and they say, do this, and you have to figure it out. Which I'm all for, starting from the bottom, working your way up, proving yourself, but to have zero guidance and then also have very high expectations from your management, obviously is really stressful. And, there was long hours, and especially in media planning. If I had started in an account management or something, it'd be a little different. The account management team always left right at 5:30, but media planners are there at 7 a.m. and then you don't leave till your work's done. So I never had plans after work. I could never make plans because I'd probably be at work till 7:30. Yeah.
Well, what would happen if you just told your boss that you need to leave on a certain time? Let's say you had a child or something you had to pick up at daycare. Were they flexible with that?
The people with kids would just leave, but I think it's if you're young and single, it's you're kind of expected to stay. And I'm kind of submissive by nature, so I would just keep my head down and didn't want to cause problems.
You felt like it would be impactful on your job if you left early,
right?
Negatively.
Yes, I wanted to prove myself and prove that I was trying. So yeah, I just did whatever it took, whether I was staying late or they didn't have laptops for us, so you had to check out from a library, a 10-year-old laptop if you wanted to take it home. There were 5 for the whole agency. So it was either you're there late or you check out a laptop and work on this clunky thing at home. So somebody that I was close with at work, sometimes we would just check it out and then just be at each other's houses late working. Yeah. So I was also terrified of my bosses, so I never really asked questions. And that was actually the interesting thing is I would work late, and then we log all of our time. Obviously, that's what you do in this world. And if they saw that I spent too much time on a project, I would get in trouble for it. And I'd get a call from my boss who actually worked remotely, and he'd be like, "So why'd you spend 12 hours on that report?" I'm like, "Well, it was really difficult, and no one taught me how to do it, so I was trying to figure it out." He's like, "Well, you can't spend that much time." Blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, interesting times.
Well,
yeah, the whole aspect of time management, and but back up, why couldn't you use your own computer? Or
I think I just needed access to the server because, of course, everything
so you couldn't access
no cloud-based anything, no Gmail anything. It was all old school. So
how long ago was it?
Let's see, I graduated in 2016, so it was.
That's not that long ago.
I know. They're so old school.
Pretty sure Gmail is a little older than that.
And that's really something that I think we can talk about too, is that it sounds like you were at a very traditional agency that hadn't made a complete change into what's going on today as much. And so, and then agencies sometimes can get stuck like that, especially agencies that are bigger and they've been around for a while. They've just done it the same way the whole time. And if there's not a lot of progressive leadership in technology, pushing technology, they can kind of stick there, which for you coming in, you probably felt old school already. As soon as you walked in, you're like, well, this seems antiquated compared to what you're used to, even in college or something. So, that right there probably sets some of the culture off of like, okay, this is kind of the culture that was built and stayed there. So tell me a little bit about, did other employees that you connected with, did they also have similar concerns, or was there this undertone of concerns similar to what you had?
I think, yes, everybody else kind of had the same experience or concerns. Yeah. So there was, like the structure is I was an assistant media planner. There were maybe like 5 of us on the team, all about the same age, same experience. And then there were a couple senior planners, and then there was the management. And so most of the assistants were all working too much, not getting paid hardly anything. And just kind of knew that this was our life right now. Like, and I think everybody was of the mindset that you just had to prove yourself and eventually work your way up. And I had a mentor who was kind of like a senior there. He'd been there a couple of years, and I would confide in him and just be like, is this normal? And he kind of didn't really have anything encouraging to say. He just kind of said, this is what you got to do. Do the best you can. Specifically, I had a friend that worked there, and he emailed our manager to tell him that he was staying home sick. And the manager literally replied, blah, 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 I'm going to need status report by 10 a.m. And I think at that point we were just like, okay, this is who we're working for. Yeah.
Well,
I think that's one of the things to kind of point out here. And so tell me if you disagree with this, Taylor, but I don't think it's bad. And we're talking about, I guess in this episode, we want to talk about, what really is a culture inside of an agency or any business, and maybe what's broken inside of the agency business and what we're trying to, maybe adjust in some of our worlds. But it's not a bad thing, I don't think, to have to do hard work. Mm-mm. Like to have to go through a fire. And actually it's an experience that's a good thing, in life, in a lot of ways. And so I don't think that's what you're saying is bad. I think the issue is just poor leadership. And that's kind of what's messed up. And it's almost like more dysfunctional than it is intentionally, difficult at certain stages. Is that right?
For sure. Yeah. I want to emphasize that too, because hard work is something I value. And like I said too, especially when you're starting out, you do need to prove yourself. But it was that element combined with the poor leadership and just, how do I say it? Just the people that were leading me were not kind and not respectful. And so it just breeds this environment of fear. And that's just not a healthy place for anybody to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like there's, like Ken was saying, it's a great point is, there's healthy work environments where you can work hard and prove yourself. And there's toxic work environments that are unhealthy. Relationally, they're unhealthy emotionally, psychologically, whatever, because you have unhealthy people or leadership styles.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think we need to differentiate that.
For sure, because SEAL training's hard. Right. And you wouldn't want Navy SEALs that don't go through that.
Right.
Not that media buying is the same as Navy SEAL training, but that's not necessarily bad. But the leadership part of it is the key. And it seems like in Taylor's story, and I've heard this and experienced this in so many other agencies, you see it happening. There's almost like there's a dysfunctional leadership and just sort of a bunch of unhealthy people kind of working together. And it's interesting when you talk about culture. I think every time someone says culture, you always, especially in the agents world, I feel like it means like, I'm going to date myself now. We got a bunch of bean bags, and we bought an espresso machine, and we got a dog, and whatever, 3D printer. All this kind of like
3D printer.
Don't forget the ping pong table.
All this like kind of Instagram cool stuff. But, I actually think that culture is different for each different group of people. And I think maybe it's more about being true to who the group of people that you're trying to foster is and what they're supposed to do. But being healthy is a big part of our culture. And because not that we get everything right, but we don't want to be like what you just said, Taylor. We don't want to be a bunch of unhealthy people that are taking out that unhealth on other people. We want to be but that takes intention and focusing on mind, body, spirit, and all that kind of health.
I have a friend who she just had a baby about a year ago, and so she works for a big agency here in Nashville. And I just found out that she quit. She was an account side. She was overworked, and she's like, they just keep on piling responsibility after responsibility, and there's no end in sight. You think that it was just a season, but it's not. It's a 24/7 season. And so she just decided, you know what, we're good on one income, and I'm gonna focus on my family and not deal with all the stress. And sometimes it's just, and it's normal, and that's the challenge. And as a business owner, it's really tough to build that culture. It's not as easy. It depends on the leadership. And like for me, I'm a single owner, and I have so many deficits. Like literally, I never realized I'm not a process person. Like I just do. It's because you've been doing it for so long, you just think it's like it's ingrained in your brain somehow, like you were born with certain things and you're not. Like people just need processes, and that's one of the things that I know that I saw quickly that people would come on and say, where's the book? Where's the handbook? Where's the process? I'm like, well, just do it. just
do it and don't mess up.
Just do it, but do it perfect.
Yeah.
No, I am a perfectionist at some level, so it is really difficult to kind of to do that. And a lot of times it's interesting because I think some business owners want to have new employers. They're okay with new employees asking questions and actually coming up with their own approach to stuff. But if you've never done something, you don't have an approach. Like you're just flying blind. And I think that again, that's just one aspect of the culture. But I'd be interested to hear a little bit more like what you think, you being here at Metacake, what you've done and actually helped implement that was very successful is to help build the culture too. And, seeing things from the other side of the table, I think you have a different viewpoint than a business owner, an entrepreneur might have. So I'm interested to hear a few points.
Yeah. Well, also, side note, it was interesting that you said the processes thing, because that was another big pitfall at the agency I was at, is that it was so big and the team was so big and there were no systems and processes. And so that meant that there was also no accountability. And so I openly say there were times that I dropped the ball and then I got reprimanded for it. And then I would, call my dad and say like, I messed up. And he's like, yeah, but nobody told you what to do in the first place. And nobody was keeping track of anything. And like, no wonder you messed up, And so that actually is one of my favorite parts of being at Metacake, is because as soon as I got here, we're so team oriented here, and that probably helps because we're small, but so team oriented, so system and process oriented that it's really impossible for you to drop the ball. So we have a project manager, and then everybody else is pretty close in touch with what all is going on in different areas, that you always have accountability. And I'm a pretty organized person, and I write everything down so that I don't forget a thing, because otherwise I will. I have short-term memory loss for sure. But I joke that I'm like Dory from Finding Nemo. Anyway, so I write everything down, but I also have a project manager to back me up. I also have Bob and Ken both, who are in stand-up calls with us every morning, so everybody knows what's going on, and that way things shouldn't get missed. So it's just nice to have that like peace of mind. So I'm getting off track from your question probably. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I guess it's just like the team oriented nature and the support that I feel from like literally every team member here, that it's just a pleasant place to be. And also it's a inspiring place to be. So.
One time in my early career, I worked for an agency, and it was about an agency of about 20, 30 folks. So not real big. In Detroit. For Detroit, it's very, very small. There's a lot of agencies in Detroit. And I was stressed out about something, probably overworked. Sometimes the overworking I tended, for my career, I put on myself. Like what you said with your first job, I just was there at 7:00, not because I really had to be. Nobody really forced me, but I felt like I would drop a ball if I didn't. Mm-hmm. It's just because the workload and the responsibility was heavy from the client's perspective. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have a lot of boundaries to our clients, which I know we've talked on other podcasts, which is really smart. It sounds like Ken and you guys put some boundaries between you and your clients so that you don't allow the client to overwork the agency. But one time I was talking to my boss and I was just kind of, man, I'm so stressed out. Blah, blah, blah. He looked at me and he said, Brad, it's only advertising. It's nothing. I was like, it's just next day's going to be advertising. The next day after that's going to be advertising. Like, it's not life or death, and it kind of just set me ease when my boss says that to me, and it just took off the load, the burden. It just took it off because I felt like I was trying maybe to please him as well. Yes. And at the same time, he's like, hey, you're never going to please everyone. You're not going to please me. So just go home. Yeah. Just don't worry about it, And it's like, I've always put that in my back pocket. And that was like 20 some years ago. And I put that in my back pocket. And I'm like, you know what? Not the end of the world. Nobody's dying. It's not like I'm on the front line in an emergency room or something where I'm having to save people's lives. But that's hard, when if you don't have that relationship with your boss or people, that you're trying to work hard for, it's really difficult, and you need that relationship. I'd be interested to hear how you feel like a boss should correct without diminishing, your spirit or diminishing your confidence. Like, what's the best way of correction if a boss does need to correct, right, an employee or set their path a little differently than what they think is the right way? Yeah,
that's a really good question.
That is a great question. Mm-hmm. Don't get it wrong.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of the culture, right? Because the part of the culture is that what I've seen is a disrespect. Is really just feeling not respected.
Exactly.
And to me, that's like the foundation of a good culture. Everyone needs to feel respected.
Which, in my opinion, is completely unintelligent. As even if you're just the most selfish leader, you just want everything for yourself. It's like, you've been on which side of it?
No, I've been the selfish.
Oh, yeah. No. I'm saying, like, even if all you want is you don't care about people and you just want to achieve your goal, the best you can't foster creativity by like creating a really gigantic stressful environment. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so it's just counterintuitive no matter how you slice it. Like maybe counterintuitive is not the right word. It's against your goal. It's going against your goal no matter which way you look at it, in my opinion.
The challenge that I have as a business owner is I feel like I'm at war all the time. And it's war against myself. It's not war against anybody else, but it's also how I'm built. I'm just like, when you spend 10 years working so hard, it's almost like you have this false sense that you've propped something up, and if you let it drop, it's all gonna fall. And it's not. It's just false. It's fake. It's not real. But in my mind, I've played that scenario so many times to the point where you almost like you put so much energy into it and you care so much about it that you care more than all of your employees, and you're wondering why your employees don't care as much as you do. The reality is they will never care as much as you do, and it's a false sense of insecurity as a business owner. So for that too, it's like, how does a business owner just chill out, and just not be so intense about the work with a client, even if you feel like you might lose the client, if a business owner, like for you guys, when you worked at this other job, there's probably a sense that you're always going to lose a client, right? Like if you don't do it right, their client's going to go find someone else. And that's also a problem with the agency world, is that, you're always on point of like, well, if you guys don't perform, we're going to go someplace else.
Yeah, you're very replaceable. For sure.
Yeah.
And that's something that we do differently here at Metacake too. I think we provide a lot of value in more ways than just a transactional, we do this work for you. Like, because we position ourselves as a growth partner, somebody that actually cares about their long-term, healthy, scalable growth, we're different. So you can't just go find another Metacake. But at a traditional agency, it's, we just check everything off the box and deliver your standardized reports and go over these metrics with you on a phone call. But anybody can do that. So that's no wonder there's so much like pressure and intensity around, like, we can't lose them. Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting perspective, because I think so much of that starts with being intentional about your culture and intentional about what culture, because to me, culture means the characteristics not only of the organization or whatever it may be, the country or whatever, the culture, but also how does that organization make you feel on a daily basis? Like, how do the employees feel when they come in? I was sitting at a client pitch recently for a medium to larger size agency that I've been contracting at, and it's a really positive environment. And after I had the best compliment, and this is not a pat on my back, but it was just made me think about what you're talking about. I had the best compliment. After they left, they ended up getting the client, and the client said, I talked to a couple other agencies, but when I sat down with you guys, and I was talking to Bob, I actually felt like I was heard and I was seen, which to me, that's the best compliment anyone can give you, because like you said, you can sit down and be like, yeah, we can do this work with you. Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm glad that, I'm glad you love your product, but here's what we're going to do. And here's the price, rather than saying, tell me about your product, your company. Like, what's the passion behind it? How did you start it? Like, I really want to know that. I genuinely want to know that with when I work with someone. It's like, can I connect with you on that level and get as excited about your product and like be passionate about it and like with nuance really understand and see. But I think that has to be baked into the culture of any environment, any organization, regardless of what it is like, can you actually treat another person? And that means your employees, but also your clients, like real human beings that are seen and heard and valued. I think, to me, that's too simplistic, but don't you think that's where it has to start?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's you apply it to clients, you apply it to, it's all people. That is part of the culture.
Yeah.
And again, this is outside of agency world. I mean, this goes into normal. Every business is like this, right? You see businesses that have maybe dysfunctional, unhealthy leadership, and then you have businesses that have healthy leadership is something that I don't know. It's more something that you're striving for, but at least this intentionality to be that. You see those type of businesses, and the team makeup, and it's a very, very different environment, and it is one typically where people are heard, and there's also an intentionality around what you're doing and why. So I would completely agree, and I also want Taylor to dig into Brad's question earlier. So like, yeah, what is Taylor? Talk a little bit about and maybe just using your experiences right from the past, but what is good? What does good leadership look like to you? Like directly above you or anyone who works for an agency or any other business. Like, what does that look like? And particularly in situations where there needs to be correction, like what does that look like? Good or bad? What's it shouldn't look like? What shouldn't it look like? And what do you think it actually should look like? What would be a good way to do that?
Yeah.
Paint the picture for us of the ideal, like you walked into a brand new job and what you ideally would love to see.
The first thing I thought of is I would like to be seen as an equal. So I don't think I was seen as a very small little piece of the puzzle, and a very kind of like almost like an imbecile. Like, you don't know anything. Like, you just got here and So anything that you have to say isn't really, it's everything's taken with a grain of salt. We're not we're not going to respect your opinion, things like that. So in regards to work or any like personal things too, I was reminded as you were talking that they're on a more like cultural level. There was a moment where it's a long story, I'll keep it short, but the boss.
We got time.
This is
You can go into it.
So the assistant director of media planning made fun of me on our team Slack, and that just didn't sit well with me. And so I don't know what got into me, but I Slacked her like the next Monday and was like, hey, could we please talk for just a second? She said, sure, let's meet in the kitchen. So I meet her in the kitchen. She's making a coffee. And I just was like, can you please not do that on Slack? Like, let's keep Slack for work stuff and not for making fun of me. And she said fair and understood and walked away. And then she turned on her heel and got in my face. And I haven't been talked to like that ever. Like maybe except for my sorority induction. But she just laid into me and I was terrified. And then I tried to talk her down, and I was like, I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I just want to be taken seriously. Just please don't call me out like that again. If you have a problem, just come talk to me. Don't put it on Slack. And it was bad. So like from that point on, whenever I would pass her in the hallway, I would cringe, and she would like do a really fake smile. But it's just, it's just a matter of respect. And so if leadership has a problem with an employee, I think there needs to be grace and understanding going into the conversation, and not diving into it and assuming the person was in the wrong, but maybe asking, hey, this is what I'm seeing. Could you explain where you're coming from? Or like, did you have questions that you should have asked prior to working on this task? Or, just trying to understand the bigger picture of what's going on instead of jumping to conclusions. Because that way the person will at least feel human. And there's room for it to be more of a conversation as opposed to just pointing fingers and saying you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
When you were hired, did they have like a employee handbook that actually was pretty had a lot of points in it, so that kind of set the stage of what to expect as far as the culture and how you treat people and things? Do you remember that?
I'm trying to remember. I feel like I had an employee handbook at the bottom of my desk drawer, but I don't think it went into like culture and that kind of like those standards or anything. Yeah.
I mean, probably
just to be able to correct things like from a
Right.
leadership, so that if there is somebody that is hurting somebody else, through Slack or whatever messages, you can kind of clamp it down and have something to guide them.
Yeah, I should have just gone to human resources, but
No, that was probably smart though, to go face. I mean, you always want to go to the person and
Right.
just try to work things out, because otherwise it's hard.
I mean, I feel like and I imagine anyone who leads anybody can tell the difference. To me, it's really easy over a course of just a little bit of interaction, figure out if somebody is just intentionally disregarding what they should do, and just not the right type of person, or someone's really trying and they're just not getting it.
Yeah.
And to me, the way you deal with those two types of people, you still want to create some sort of correction, but the way you deal with that is completely different.
Like one of the challenges I have is, and maybe you can help me, it's like therapy.
I love that.
Yeah, it's trust me, I feel like I'm too old, but I feel like I go down. I feel like I go down in years every year I get older. I'm actually getting more and more immature. Like I find out how immature I really am.
It's called wisdom.
No, I think I don't know.
You know what we really should do is we should have like a segment intro for Brad's therapy.
I know.
Just press that button.
I know.
You should have me on every time.
So
'cause I
tell
love
us,
therapy.
what's going on?
Tell me about your childhood. So, you hire, I'm just telling you from my point of view. You hire somebody, they're young, they just came out of college, let's say. I'm just throwing this out there. They come in and they have an idea of how to do something, or they have an idea based on book knowledge and other things, maybe not a ton of experience, right? actual practical experience. They come in and they go down the road and they start working on something and they guide something and it goes a little off, but it's going towards where they want to go, but it's really off to really what is necessary. They don't see that, right? Somebody who's more experienced comes in and they say, well, no, that's actually not correct. And then even if they're kind about it, the other person, it's, how do you guide somebody that is young that doesn't maybe have that long experience without making them feel empowered and still them understanding why the thing is being changed? Like maybe it's creative, maybe it's strategy, maybe it's whatever. It's just being changed. Mm-hmm. How do you do that in a nice way without teaching them? Like if they don't get it, like for me, like I don't have time to sit and spend 3 days going through a workshop to teach somebody new some principles that's taken me my whole career. How do you guide them back easily in a nice way to say, hey, you know what? I really appreciate your ideas and your thoughts, and I can understand how you came to that conclusion, but we'd like to do it this way, and this is really the best way. How do you, if there's a headbutting there, how does somebody like me as a business owner still create correction but still empower that person and not deflate them? I think that's always a challenge that I have, and I'd be interested to hear from you how you think a boss should do that. Like, especially if, let's just say you're not, but let's just say you were a little more hard-headed and you're like, you almost got frustrated. You're like, no, that's it. That's how you do it. That's what I was taught,
Right.
And how does that work?
Yeah. I always like the compliment sandwich. So you start out with saying something that they're doing right and something that you appreciate about them, and you appreciate their dedication or the work that they've put into this. And then in the middles, when you're giving the correction, kindly, and it's okay if it stings. That's correction is especially for a people pleaser like me. Correction's always going to sting. So like that's not your fault. Like I think young people need to learn how to take correction and not let it just destroy them. And you need to humble yourself, and that's how you learn. So correct with kindness, and then maybe another compliment on the end to soften it.
Ken's sitting here smirking.
That's good.
I'm not sure
I like
that
the compliment sandwich.
I think I miss. I feel like in my life I've missed like
I don't get a lot of compliment sandwiches.
Like how to like business etiquette somehow. I'm like, just do it. I'm gone. Like just do this, and it's like I'm gone. It's like I need to like take a course. Maybe you should teach a course of like how business people should talk to to each other and how to encourage people and lift people up, because for me, I really want to lift people up. I want them to grow, but I feel like I'm just so busy in the day. I don't take the time to kind of like pad things too much, like the positive, negative, positive kind of approach where you're awesome, but we're going to make a little correction. You're awesome again, kind of thing,
So I know how you feel.
That's great though. I think that would work. Like I think just. It sounds like you know what to do.
I do, but it's not part of my habit of communication.
Maybe in the moment when you're so busy, I'm
a horrible communicator.
Maybe Ken would be able to speak to it better, because Ken has like having to give me corrections before, and I see you correct other people, but it's always like it never hurts. It's always like, oh, okay, well I kind of feel dumb, but I'll go fix it.
That's good.
Can I ask you a question? Is it because you know his heart, and so no matter what he does, you know he's for you?
Yeah.
And so, again, if you don't feel someone's for you from the get-go, they can be as nice as possible, and all of a sudden they got a fake smile.
That's so true.
So it's really about the intent and the care and it's that relationship of work, that work relationship where you feel like, hey, I've got your back and I care about you. And I may be a little harsh once in a while, but I really care about you. And if they feel that way, right, then whatever Ken says is not going to be as harsh because you know his intent.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's probably why Ken doesn't need the compliment sandwich tactic. It's just because everybody here already knows his heart towards his employees and that he wants us to grow. And so so if he just shoots you a quick message on Slack, it doesn't have to be fluffy for it to be taken well.
Yeah.
And Ken's not fluffy. So
what I'm hearing you all say around the table is that it makes a huge difference when the human relationships are top priority and the work is secondary. And we may not be saying that, but
You're right.
what it boils down to is what your boss said to you that you'll never forget, that said, it's just advertising. In other ways, he was saying, Brad, this is just our work. This does not define us as human beings.
Yep.
And that's where I think that subtle little difference is what you felt at the other agency, whether it was intentional or not, was human beings weren't priority. Work was the priority. So therefore, everything is subservient to that. And that's all you felt was, I'm abused. I'm not cared. I'm not seen. I'm not heard, because I'm just a worker bee in this cog to fulfill the work, which is a priority. Whereas here at Metacake, what you're saying is our relationships, we get our work done and it is priority, but we're more important than the work itself, right? Is that kind of what I'm saying?
I think that's such a profound point, because I do think that is maybe the distinction in any business, but certainly in agency world, the difference between people being the priority. And that doesn't mean, like, I'll be the first to say, like, a business has to be successful. Like, if you're going to be doing it in a business, it has to be successful.
But that's how it is successful.
But that is how it is successful. That's the point. And it's sort of maybe a little counterintuitive, but that's actually how you make it successful. You look at any winning sports team, and they're a team, right? Once there's a breakdown on the team, people have issues with those kind of things.
No matter how talented they are.
No matter how talented, it messes up their mentality, and they actually can't win. And I think that's the same way in business. And so it's sort of naive to me. I'm always surprised, but it seems to happen in agencies a lot, at least traditionally. And Brad, maybe you can speak to that. But Taylor, your experience, I've seen that a million times. How people are just like cogs in a wheel. They're super transactional. Like, you expand with clients, you contract with clients, you work people to death. And the result of that is that everyone hates their job.
Yeah.
Even the leaders. I've stood in line. I remember distinctly one of the Addy Awards shows that we were at. I was like standing in line behind some guy at some big agency, and he was having a conversation with the person in front of him. He was about to go back into the office, and that's fine to work on something, but he was talking about how he just had a baby and he has koozies and whatever. He just worked 70 hours a week last week, and he's going back in because the client didn't like, and he clearly was burnt out and hated what he was doing, and he was going back in, like, after this award show, which was on a Saturday night, late on, he's going back in to work on this ad, and sorry, that was my phone, and he didn't enjoy it, and the more that people are transactional, I think the less quality work you get, and actually the more you burn out. So I think that's a profound point. I would totally agree with that.
It's funny. I worked at different agencies, and I've been this agency where I had the boss that told me it's just advertising. We were, I don't know, what did I say, 20 or 30 people at that time, and it was interesting. There was times where I had an incredible boss who cared about everyone. Like, I knew his heart, and he did his best to pour back into his employees. But there was always employees that, for some reason, were always a little disgruntled, and they were always the ones that hadn't been there for more than like a year, and they would paint a different picture than he really was. And it was only because they didn't have really a relationship with him, because he didn't have the bandwidth to pour into new people that started that weren't, part of a leadership team at that point. And he just didn't have the time. And he had a family and stuff. And I realized that and you would hear little disgruntled things, and I'm like, you never really, you're like, that's not true really, but if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. I didn't know how. I always thought to myself, how could he solve that problem? Because it's something that it kind of festers, and it creates like little rumbling of other employees. Mm-hmm. And there's always that employee that comes, and not everyone's like this, but sometimes you find employees they kind of stir the pot a lot. And how do you, as an employer, tamper that down and pour back into that person so you all the things they're rumbling about, they feel value. Somehow they don't feel valued. And it's always easier to miss somebody. I'd be curious on your point, like what can a boss do who doesn't have the bandwidth, time, has his own family, working like crazy just to try and to, I never knew what leadership went through until I actually was in leadership. And I were like, whoa, now I have way more empathy for you. I understand that you were dealing with way bigger stressful things than I ever was, making hard decisions. And so how does somebody who is starting up, because you've gone through that, and I've gone through that too, how did their leadership pour back into them in a way that feels right and is uplifting and makes you feel good about your position besides your direct contact? Does that question,
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm thinking the first thought I had would be just little things go a long way. So even if you're just walking by someone's desk and give them a fist bump or like pat them on the shoulder and just say like, hey, so-and-so, like, how was your weekend? Like that little, like showing that you actually care about something that's a part of them outside of their job actually means a lot. Like when I was an intern at a healthcare company on their marketing team, I was in college. That was my first time being in like a corporate office. So I was real young. I was maybe 21. And little bubbly, chatty Taylor, anytime someone came around the corner to ask me a question, I would be like, how's your weekend? And they're like, good. And then they just like walk away. And I would ask my parents like why no one wanted to talk to me. And they were like, I think everybody's just really busy and just wants to focus on work. But anyway, that's, if somebody had taken a minute just to ask me one question about like, how's your dog? Or, how Bob and Ken ask like how my dad is sometimes. And like, they don't need to ask those questions, but that just shows that they care about me as a person. And that's just something simple as opposed to like, a 15 to 30 minute one-on-one once a month would be great too, just to kind of get feedback and see how things are going. But if you're a really busy boss and have, 20 employees, then that doesn't really make sense. Yeah.
But to that point, I've thought about this a lot because I think how you scale this is a key question. And I bet anyone listening is like, okay, how do you scale like one-on-one relationships? But so a couple points on that. I think as a leader, you have to have layers of people. You have to have a certain group of people that you connect one-on-one with, that you have that rapport and relationship with, and then maybe those X number of people then also have that, and that's how it scales, I believe. Some organizations that I think do this really well is I think Dave Ramsey does this really well. And you can tell his leadership culture. He even talks about it. And it's similar to that. It's like concentric circles. And also I've heard, I know, Lee Company, which is a big company, Bill Lee, who's our governor, he owned Lee Company. I know that he did similar things. And I would actually talk to his employees sometimes. And, it was a pretty big company, and now he's the governor of Tennessee. But before that, they were like, he would meet me in the hallway and just like dig into me and ask how I was doing and talk about his family and all that kind of stuff. All that to say, I think there has to be that genuine care. And I will say this, it's actually, to be honest with you, for me, it's actually really hard. So I can relate to Brad. Like, not that I don't care. I super care about people, but like, there are so many things going on typically that, I don't think I feel like I'm chipping away at an iceberg. So to stop and have a 10-minute conversation actually feels like you're like anxious about it, like something else is burning.
Yeah.
And now we have to kind of shoot the breeze for 10 minutes, and that can feel really, really stressful. And so I used to be really bad at that. I've been intentional to change that. And it's actually then come full circle. Like, as I've tried to, it's actually become more enjoyable to do that. Like, you get to know people you actually do care about and not to say that I didn't before, but just that feeling of, when something's going on and you're like, you just, you don't have the energy to engage and you feel like it's, kind of wasting time, but it's not. That's one of those other counterintuitive things is like, it truly is depositing things into people. It's building a relationship and rapport that actually builds loyalty, builds trust, makes that person really want to do what they do because they care about more than just the work.
One of the things that I've noticed is, and I don't know why agencies do this, they have all this fun stuff, right? The ping pong tables and all this stuff, and nobody has time to use it. Like maybe for a brief minute. But one of the things that I've noticed is that you can't have social time in the office because me mentally, I can't separate work, and a lot of people can't separate work for fun. Like when I'm at work, like my head's down. But when I go and have fun, I'm at fun for the most part. You have to do things outside the office with your groups. You have to do team building stuff or just fun stuff that is just allows you to sit down with next to somebody and just have a conversation that you might have not had in the office just because you have time and you're in a more relaxed mode. I'd be interested to hear from you. Like, what are some fun things that you can do that employees like to do as a company that inside or outside the office that you feel is a real good team builder or just a rapport builder and a good social aspect?
Yeah.
What are some things that you guys do anything as a team?
Yeah, we do we haven't done a ton of
Let's talk pre-COVID.
Let's talk pre-COVID.
Yeah. I always think that like team building activities are kind of cheesy and nobody actually ends up liking them.
Yeah, it's like work.
Right. And it's like we would rather be at our desk.
Yeah. Let's go bowling.
I actually like bowling. That would be fun.
Too.
We should do that.
Totally do that.
So we're in downtown Franklin, so there's all kinds of fun hangout options around here. But one thing I love about Metacake is we do Friday lunches. So as a team, we all go out to eat, and it's fun, relaxed, good time to connect with each other. But outside of the work week, like once a month or so, we'll go to like Arrington Vineyards and like work from there for the afternoon. So it's a little bit more relaxed, but we're still trying to get some things done.
Do you have to rent the laptop to do that?
We have our own laptop.
Check it out.
Okay.
Whoa.
Check out the laptop. I'm joking.
Yeah, my first day at Metacake, I brought my own personal laptop because I was like, who knows if they're going to give me a computer.
I think you brought your Dell Tower.
I do have something though that I do, and I don't want to say this too loudly here, but every full-time employee that I hire, I always buy them a brand new laptop, like brand new MacBook Pro or something. Wow. I always feel like if you can set somebody off on the right state and say, listen, we just bought you brand new stuff. You're not getting anything used. You're getting the brand new latest stuff. Here's your nice little keyboard. Here's your little pencil holder.
I should do that.
Anyways, to me, I like doing that because it tells that person that, we're excited to have you here, and this is a new you're not inheriting something. It's like you're fresh and start.
I love that.
Yeah.
That is good. We actually don't do that.
Sorry about that. Well, we don't do that for everyone, but I think maybe interns we don't. But
interns don't.
Interns
will probably spill.
Well,
their
we still
coffee
love
on
interns, and we still value them.
We love them. No, I mean
They only get they're the max year-old laptop.
Yeah, they get just a year old.
Yeah, but anyway,
Sorry.
no, you're good.
we
I love it.
We try to invest in in health a lot.
Yes. Oh. That
Just
too.
like mental, spiritual, emotional,
Yeah.
physical. Again, this is pre-COVID. We've been trying to work out what does this look like. To be honest with you, like now, because a lot of gyms are closed, but there's Lifetime Fitness is over here in Franklin, a really nice one.
Yeah.
And anyone who would like to do a membership there, we give a super discounted rate, and we subsidize.
Oh, great.
It's amazing. I cried when they announced it at lunch one day. I actually teared up and glared. I think Ken said, 4 or 5 of you have to be in for us to get the discount. And I glared at 2 of our team members and was like, you're doing this because I'm getting that discount and I will pay for your membership
I think you
if you don't want to do it.
Yeah. And they have work centers there, you can work and Wi-Fi and stuff.
Yeah, it's great.
It's so nice. I haven't been there in 6 months, but it's so nice. Garage gym. We, something which I love Taylor's honest opinion about, but, and again, I think the point that I'm making here is you kind of, I think if you put time into it, you come to culture quotes more organically and naturally, which actually works. It's not like the ping pong table that no one uses and that kind of stuff. And so one of the things that we did, because we felt there was a need, I kind of polled around some people and we felt there was a need, was we got One of our pastors comes in and will do like counseling to whoever wants it. So just an ear. He's sort of like our company chaplain.
Oh, cool.
And so it's sort of like, yeah, it doesn't have to be, it could be anything. And I don't even know, and it's confidential. It's, as whenever people want it. But that's another thing we sort of did is like, how do we invest into the mental health of everybody?
Yeah, I do. My brother does that actually up in Michigan. He has a pastor that comes in and once, I think every other week or so, and just is there if someone wants to talk to him, and it's completely private. My brother doesn't know anything; he doesn't share with it. Mm-hmm. Do you find that from an employee standpoint that's been helpful?
Absolutely, yeah. That's so. I mean, I have a good relationship with work here, so I don't actually ever talk to him about work things, but he would be there if I needed to. So normally I'm just talk about my personal life and get some encouragement. But yeah, it's been amazing to have that. And that's so rare. I tell, my roommate works for a big corporate company, and I've told her that Pastor CZ was coming in.
No, CZ, I know CZ.
Yeah, no, we love CZ.
He's been on our podcast.
Yeah, I had him on the podcast.
Yeah. And she's like, wait, what? Can I stop by?
Mental
$10 an hour.
Yeah.
$20 an hour.
I'm glad that organizations, and not just agencies, but companies in general, are finally waking up to the importance of mental health and spiritual health. And I think that is number one priority. If your team does not healthy mentally, there's no way that your organization is going to be successful.
And if anyone's listening to this, I've more recently in the last couple of years just had this vision inside me, this revelation that like it's not new. We know that people spend most of their lives at work, right? And so if organizations, agencies, all types of companies were just a little bit better at fostering and leading the health of the people inside, it would have a massive impact on society, right? Like, so when we talked about this thing, it was like the stigma and barriers to getting counseling are so high, like just because of our culture, and also you have to find someone, you have to talk to somebody and get a reference. Like, there's all these things, right? And so people don't do it.
It can be super expensive too.
It can be expensive, so people don't do it. And the basic thought was like, what if we could just remove that and make it super easy and not weird, right? It's just like, and that's just one thing. But, as businesses, we have this disproportionate effect on the society, like the people that work inside of them and also the people you serve. And that doesn't mean everything's like roses and butterflies all the time, right? Sometimes the best way to serve someone is actually doing maybe the harder things that cause some pain. But if businesses focused on that and just kind of like improving that trajectory, I think like it would just have a massive impact on the society because of the amount of time people spend inside of work,
I agree. I agree. That's good. And I think that's a good place to end. Taylor, thank you for sharing your story with us. And we hope to hear you again on the podcast before too long.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Talk to you soon, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.